The phone slipped from my hand, clattering onto the hardwood floor with a sickening crack. My breath caught, jagged and sharp, as the screenshot burned into my vision. Meet me tonight? Same place, same time. Don't tell her. The words weren't meant for me, but there they were, glowing on my screen. A digital dagger plunged into my chest. I stood frozen in the dim light of my apartment, the hum of the fridge suddenly deafening, the air thick with the scent of my untouched coffee growing cold on the counter. Ethan's name blinked above the message, his profile picture, a crooked smile I'd once traced with my thumb, now a stranger's face. My knees buckled, and I sank onto the couch, the fabric rough against my trembling hands. How had it come to this? We'd met 6 months ago at a tech conference, both of us bleary-eyed from coding marathons, bonding over burnt coffee and a shared hatred for poorly documented APIs. Ethan was charming, his laugh a low rumble that made my pulse skip, his hazel eyes catching the light like sea glass. I told him I wasn't ready to date, not until I'd survived my 403 phase, that grueling stretch of my startup security overhaul, where every waking hour was consumed by firewalls and encryption keys. He'd nodded, patient, promising he'd wait. I'm not going anywhere, Lila, he'd said, his hand brushing mine, warm and steady. I believed him. God, I believed him. But now, staring at the screenshot, a careless forward from a mutual friend who'd assumed I already knew. My stomach churned with a cocktail of nausea and rage. The message was time-stamped last night, 11:47 p.m., when Ethan had texted me he was crashing early, after a long day. I'd been up until 3 a.m., debugging code, my eyes stinging, my heart buoyed by his goodnight text. Sleep tight, genius. Lies. All of it, lies. I scrolled back through our messages, searching for cracks I'd missed. The signs were there, weren't they? His replies had grown shorter over the past month, his excuses flimsier. Work's insane, he'd say, or I'm just wiped. I'd brushed it off, blaming my own paranoia, my tendency to overanalyze like I did with code. But the late-night calls had dwindled, his voice less warm, his stories vague. I'd rationalized it. He's busy, we're both busy. But the truth was clawing its way to the surface now, undeniable and sharp. I needed answers. Grabbing my keys, I stormed out, the cool night air biting my cheeks as I headed for his apartment. The city buzzed around me, car horns blaring, neon signs flickering, the distant thump of bass from a bar. But it all felt muted, like I was underwater. My mind raced, replaying every moment, every touch. Had he been lying from the start? Or had something changed, something I'd failed to see? Doubt gnawed at me, but so did a flicker of guilt. Maybe I'd pushed him away with my work, my walls, my 403 phase. His building loomed ahead, a squat brick structure with ivy creeping up the sides. I buzzed his apartment, my heart hammering. No answer. I buzzed again, harder, my finger trembling. Finally, the door clicked open, and I climbed the stairs, each step heavier than the last. When I reached his door, it was ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the hall. My pulse thundered in my ears. I pushed it open. Ethan stood in his living room, frozen mid-step, a glass of whiskey in his hand. His eyes widened, then softened with something like pity. Lila, what are you? He started, but I cut him off, holding up my phone, the screenshot glaring like an accusation. Who is she? My voice cracked, raw and unsteady. I hated how small I sounded, how desperate. He set the glass down, the clink against the table too loud in the silence. It's not what you think, he said, his tone calm, practiced. Too practiced. He stepped closer, hands raised like he was soothing a startled animal. Let me explain. Then explain. I snapped, my voice rising, echoing off the bare walls. A neighbor's dog barked faintly outside. You told me you were sleeping last night. You told me you'd wait. And now this? Don't tell her? My chest heaved, tears prickling. But I refused to let them fall. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, his jaw tight. It's complicated, Lila. I didn't mean for this to happen. I swear I didn't. Didn't mean for what? I stepped closer, searching his face for the man I thought I knew. His eyes darted away, landing on the floor, the couch, anywhere but me. That avoidance was an answer in itself. Her name's Claire, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. She's someone from work. It wasn't planned. It just happened. The words hit like a punch, stealing my breath. Just happened. I laughed, bitter and hollow. You don't just happen to sneak around, Ethan. You don't just happen to lie to someone you. I stopped, the word love choking in my throat. Had I ever said it? Had he? I couldn't remember, and that made it worse. I didn't want to hurt you, he said, stepping closer. His cologne, once comforting, now made my stomach lurch. You were so focused on work, Lila. Always working. I felt invisible. So this is my fault. My voice shook, anger and guilt twisting together. I told you I needed time. You said you understood. I did, he shot back, his calm cracking. But weeks turned into months, and I got lonely. Claire was there, and she saw me. I staggered back, the words slicing deeper than I'd expected. Lonely. He'd been lonely. And I hadn't seen it. Had I been too wrapped up in my code, my deadlines, to notice? The doubt crept in. But then I saw the screenshot again in my mind. Those damning words. Don't tell her. No. This wasn't on me. How long? I asked, my voice steady now, cold. How long have you been seeing her? He hesitated, his Adam's apple bobbing. A month. Maybe 6 weeks. 6 weeks. 6 weeks of lies, of late-night texts I'd thought were for me. Of promises he'd never meant to keep. My vision blurred, not with tears but with a white-hot rage that made my hands shake. You could have told me, I said. You could have been honest. I didn't want to lose you, he said, his voice breaking. For a moment, I saw the Ethan I'd fallen for, vulnerable, flawed, human. But it wasn't enough. You already did, I whispered, turning for the door. Lila, wait, he called, but I didn't stop. The hallway blurred as I ran, the stairwell echoing with my footsteps. Outside, the city was louder now, alive with chaos, but inside me, something had gone quiet. I walked, aimless, the night swallowing me whole. Hours later, back in my apartment, I found his jacket on my couch, forgotten from weeks ago. I picked it up, the leather cool and heavy, and something slipped from the pocket. A receipt, crumpled and faded. A coffee shop, 2 lattes, dated 3 weeks ago. The barista's name was Claire. My heart stopped. I'd been there with him that day, or so I'd thought. But the time on the receipt was 2 p.m., when I'd been in a meeting. He'd been with her, right under my nose, and I'd been too blind to see it. I sank to the floor, the receipt clutched in my hand, and let the tears come. Not for him, but for the version of me who'd trusted him, who'd believed in a future that never existed. The betrayal wasn't just his. It was mine, for ignoring the warnings, for thinking love could wait. I'd told him I wasn't ready, but I hadn't realized he'd stop waiting long before I did.